as I was driving in this morning, I was thinking 4 years.
At least.
4 long years. No. I do not. I will not countenance another Trump victory under no circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay. But 4 years is a long, long time, even for the people fantasizing about an impeachment. And I'm not putting you down. I think that that's a decent chance, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the day. But what difference does it make? Then Mike Pence is president, and that's almost equally disastrous. And he's the one that got him to pass all these crony capitalist stuff that we hate the most.
But, you know, legislatively, it's you're right, it's equally disastrous. But the symbol of repudiating who this guy Trump is worth having Mike Pence. Mike Pences are going to come along from time to time, and they can be dealt with. But there is something about being able to say to this guy that this is serious business, and he is not. And if it comes to pass that any of these things are true that we think about Donald Trump, then getting rid of him with the price to pay being President Mike Pence, I think is absolutely worth it, because I don't think there's a great difference between Donald Trump and Mike Pence at this point in terms of what they're going to do legislatively anyway.
So I want to throw out there another possibility. You know, by the end of these 4 years, it's possible that we'll have a President Carson or a President Palin. And now that sounds outlandish now, but let me explain. If Donald Trump sniffs that he is in trouble, and if he is actually going to be impeached, and right now it's just fanciful talk. It's his first day in office. He hasn't even been sworn in yet.
His first day's Monday, by the way. He's taking a break for 3 days.
He is. But I know his temperament, and I know his nature, and I know the outrageous things he's going to do, and I know how unpopular he's going to be. So I think it's not a crazy conversation to talk about it as a what if, right?
Yeah.
And even so, it's a low probability event, but it is certainly much more probable than any other incoming president I've seen in my lifetime, including all of the Republican ones.
And
right?
Speaking of incoming presidents, we have an incoming president, George and Laura Bush, the 43rd president and first lady, arriving at the inauguration. Now they're arriving at the Capitol with of course, George H.W. and Barbara Bush, both hospitalized back in Houston.
And so,
hold on 1 second, guys. So if he's going to be impeached, he will know well ahead of time. There'll be months and months of it being drawn out. And if he thinks the Republicans are going to join the impeachment, which they would have to in order for that to happen, he'll fire Mike Pence. Or I'm not saying he's definitely going to do it, but it certainly could. And in fact, I'm not sure from a political standpoint, not a policy standpoint, not a what's the right thing to do, that I disagree with him. That what he would do if he was playing smart politics is fire Mike Pence, who is a reasonable, in Republican minds, alternative, and put in the craziest person he could possibly find as vice president to tell them, if you're going to impeach me, go have at it, Hoss. But you'll then have President Sarah Palin or President Ben Carson,
right?
And try to scare the bejesus out of them.
Well, just so the bejesus isn't scared out of anybody, you can't just fire the vice president. So that's something you know a little bit ahead of time too. You have to force the resignation of the vice president. So it wouldn't just be a you're fired type of thing for Donald Trump, which he is.
Normally it wouldn't, but it's Trump, right?
Right, but I mean,
he could pull a special episode of The Apprentice
But
and fire the vice president.
He
could make it a reality show, choosing the
But
next
you would
one.
also have to have the Congress go along with whoever was going to become vice president, and at that point they would probably be at odds with the president himself. So it's an imperfect. But listen, in this year of everything that we don't think is happening. In fact, anything seems possible.
So, and understand this too. If I love this, it's my favorite excuse of all time. John Danforth decides to step down as ambassador to the United Nations for George Bush. That's because he can't stand Dick Cheney and the drive to more and more wars. Because he's an old school Republican and actually a decent guy.
Yeah.
And a pastor and religious and a good human being, even though I disagree with him on at least 80% of stuff, right? But he doesn't want to say that I can't stand the Bush administration, that's why I'm leaving. So he said his wife twisted her ankle.
That was a good one. You're looking. There's Marine One, by the way.
You gotta love.
Can I just to finish the thought? If Mike Pence at some point steps down because his wife twisted her ankle, that means Trump is in trouble.
Yeah.
And he is looking to replace Pence with someone crazier. I'm just giving as a warning for how things play out.
You gotta love that as an excuse because how long does it take to recover from a twisted ankle? A couple weeks.
And it's your wife.
And it's your wife. Well, no, but you
your
want to show
twisted
support. If she had cancer, okay, you step down, you support her.
Twisted ankle.
But not to be too depressing, but to go back to what started this train of thought was the what can be reversed, what can't. And this matters because there's some things you can try to stop, although Donald Trump has shown that he doesn't believe in approval rating polls and like he doesn't trust. If people oppose something, he will think it's fake news. But there are some things that you can't take back. You can't just reverse them. We saw George W. Bush. Like the legacy of the war in Iraq is still going on. The tax cuts that he passed are still wrecking our economy. The people he put on the Supreme Court are still there. I mean, these are changes that last, best case scenario, wild flight of fantasy, decades to reverse, generations potentially to reverse. And so when Donald Trump passes an even larger tax cut, cutting the corporate tax burden to a third of what it is today, that is going to affect federal budgets for decades and decades. The rest of our lives in this industry, he's going to potentially put multiple people on the Supreme Court. And the people whose educations are ruined by Betsy DeVos, the people whose retirements are ruined because of the changes he's going to make on Wall Street, the people who will be affected by these Supreme Court decisions, if abortion is allowed to be made illegal, people who are forced to give birth. I mean, these are if Obamacare is repealed, tens of thousands are estimated will die unnecessarily each year. It doesn't matter at that point if we get it back in 4 years or in 8 years, if somehow we switch it out. If Bernie becomes president in 4 years, millions of people's lives will have been irrevocably changed, unfortunately, unless we stop these changes from happening now. But there's some things that you can't just switch back. You can't do it.
So let me give you 3 quick examples of that. So the foreclosures, when Steve Mnuchin foreclosed on that 90-year-old woman for 37 cents that she theoretically owed. She was willing to pay it. She was willing to pay everything. It was a accounting error and on their part, but they didn't care. They just wanted to foreclose because they were going to make money on flipping her house. Yeah. She doesn't get her house back. So when you set in chain the policies that lead to that foreclosure, that 90-year-old woman, I don't know if she survives to the next, and I hope she does, right? The next president, but she won't have her house. And I don't know where she's living, right? A woman that showed up for Kaufman's town hall in Colorado, who's a Republican congressman out there, said, I've got breast cancer. I used to be on my husband's health insurance plan, but he died. So I'm using the Affordable Care Act. If they take it away and I've got a pre-existing condition, I can't get health insurance. What if she gets a recurrence of breast cancer and she doesn't have health insurance and she passes away? Well, you can't do a redo on that.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. And so
it doesn't exist.
These 4 years are super real. You never win by losing, right? Like, hey, let's lose for 4 years, devastate people's lives, and then maybe we'll make a comeback is not a great strategy. Now, it is what it is. And
it's a silver lining.
Yeah, and here we are, and we don't have a choice, so we better make sure that we win in 2 years, 4 years, et cetera. But it has super real consequences. And finally, the thing that they care about, all the donors who gave money to Trump, all the people he put in his cabinet, who are millionaires and billionaires, as Bernie would say, is that they get to keep the tax cuts forever.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, even if you reverse them 4 years from now, those 4 years, they will have made billions of dollars extra that they put in their pocket that doesn't go towards your kids' education, bridges, et cetera. They're already billionaires. It's not like, oh, man, that extra, $575 million for Wilbur Ross or whatever it turns out being, right? It's not like it was make or break for him, and it's not like he created jobs with it. He's a vulture capitalist in Wilbur Ross's case. But that could have provided educational opportunity for your kids. That could have provided a bridge that doesn't collapse, a school, a hospital, et cetera. But you'll never get that because those tax cuts will go to those guys and they will keep them forever.
Yeah.
So that's why they put him in office. That's why they wanted him. So those are some of the dozens, hundreds of real effects that we'll see for the next 4 years. So as I said before the election and as I said on election night, brace for impact, because that impact is going to be significant. You know who created journalism you could be proud of? You did. Our audience helped us hire an investigative reporting team. Now we're going to go for a second. tytnetwork.com/go. Let's build the best reporting team in the country together.